Welcome to The Cloaked. We are a collective of inquiring minds seeking answers to mysteries both past and present. Join us on our journey to discover that which remains hidden. And now, on with the show.
I'm your host, White Owl.
Hi, I'm Sai.
Hey, it's Pandora.
This is Hoffman.
So, John David Gosch, also known as Johnny Gosch, the paperboy who disappeared back on September 5th, 1982. He was 12 years old. Disappeared from a West Des Moines, Iowa. Mm-hmm. So it looks like, they never found anything as far as his remains, right? So it was considered a kidnapping. His mother, Noreen Gosch, continues to maintain that he's still alive and he's out there. So
that's fucked up.
Yeah, so it's a pretty messed up story. So it kind of was the push for having different acts that went through legislation for missing and exploited children.
Yes.
And so and out of this we became, as as a nation during that time, people became more familiar with like pedophilia.
Yeah, so
pedophiles, because it was something that most people didn't really have a conversation about this,
or didn't even.
They didn't know it was a thing.
They didn't know it was a thing.
Like
they
people
didn't know
do
it was
that.
A word, right?
They're like, what'd you call me?
Like,
Pedophile?
And they even talk about like they had a meeting thing and they brought somebody from, what was it, Stanford or somebody, like a professor.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't even know. He didn't even know
he was like a doctor.
He was a doctor.
What's that word? I'm not familiar with.
Then,
are people that ignorant about the subject?
People weren't aware that kidnapping and taking of children being trafficked for these type of things, they weren't really aware that was something that existed.
So they believe kidnappings happen, but that the pedophilia part was not associated with. It could have been.
Yeah.
Well, the whole concept of human trafficking wasn't something that was really acknowledged.
It was just a more innocent or like more naive time in terms of that, I think.
Right.
Like it was going on, but people just weren't really aware.
Yeah.
I mean, and it goes into, there was pamphlets, there was magazines, there was video, there was other things being kind of so like underground type of thing, where the guy who they end up having a conversation with and they end up bringing in, having this meetings, he talked about, there's this network of people that do that. And so anyways, we go on to the day Johnny Gosch disappeared on his paper route.
God damn, I got something.
I mean, which is very unfortunate. There's not a very a thing where that mentality wasn't set. You know how we talked about like the Texarkana killings and all that, with the doors being left open. Mm-hmm. You have here the same scenario, but unfortunately it's with kids. You don't have that mindset that this is going to happen. You have your kids going out at night, and these kids they're paper boys, so they're going up at 5 a.m. to collect the paper and then go out and deliver, right?
Yeah, it was in the documentary and other forums. They're saying that was like, it was Americana, just to leave your kids out, right? They hung out with each other. They went out at night. The parents didn't really worry about kidnapping and pedophilia. It was maybe like it wasn't even a thought. Right?
It wasn't something that people really think about.
And they weren't taught that. The parents weren't even taught about pedophilia. So at what point they were like, dude, that's why they were always like kind of fighting the fact that it couldn't be pedophilia. It's just kidnapping.
It wasn't possible. Well, I mean, they believed that he ran away. But we go to that morning. So we believe that Johnny leaves his house to go to get his paper for his paper route. This is around like 5:15, 5:20 a.m. So he goes to pick up his paper route, and as he's out there with the other guys, the other kids picking up the paper, we have Johnny speaking to a man that he seen on like next to his car, talking to him, and it looks like he wants some type of like directions, right? He's looking for directions.
Yeah, he's engaging with Johnny, and that's pretty much a scoping out.
Right, yeah. Something seems up. But then Johnny then tells the guy the adult who distributes the paper to the paper boys, hey, look, this guy, you need to talk to him. I guess he was looking for directions and Johnny didn't know how to tell him, so he asked for the adult. So as Johnny does this, the guy in the car takes off, right?
Yeah.
Takes off, speeding off. Johnny May then makes a comment to one of the other paper boys that something didn't seem right about this guy, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you already have this scenario, right, being set, and the adult there, I forget his name, he sees that that's kind of weird that this guy is talking to this boy, and this guy just takes off.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you go back to the mindset of the community. If I was the adult, I would have been like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with you, or I'm gonna have to call some people.
Well, then let's bring up the point. Johnny Boy usually goes, not Johnny Boy, but Johnny usually, typically the father goes with him to deliver the papers.
Yes.
And so that one time that he doesn't go
it.
with him, and then all of a sudden he disappears. And
Yeah.
so maybe that man was like wondering. I'm like, okay,
where's your dad? Where's your father? What's happening?
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of at this point you can say that whoever the guy in the car was has been tracking Johnny, right? Or at least one of him out of the paper boys.
This is all according to the neighbor who saw this happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who had looked out of his window and saw
There is a
that
neighbor
he's talking
that
to.
watches, but when this is happening, the paper's being distributed. The neighbor does eventually see, as Johnny goes to his paper route, one of the other paper boys sees Johnny. Again, Johnny's then talking to this guy in this car, right?
Yeah, there's a two-tone truck.
Two-tone Ford.
But then there's
Ford,
like a sedan, right?
No, it's
or car.
Blue
Yeah, I guess
car.
it was a
it's
car.
a two-tone. It's and both eyewitnesses. There's 5 eyewitnesses, but 2 of them say, one of them say it's like a blue and a dark blue, but then another one says that it was silver and black.
So maybe
But
there's
it's
two
a Ford.
vehicles.
It's a Ford. What was it?
Fairmont.
Fairmont. Yes.
Yeah.
A Ford Fairmont. So I mean, a total. We end up finding out there's 5 eyewitnesses that see these strange occurrences around Johnny. Right.
None of them do anything about it.
Well, I mean, again, you go back to the mindset.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are kids, and then 2 of them are adults. You know what I mean? So you kind of like, okay, so what?
There's not immediate suspicion.
They're not. No.
And so nothing gets done.
Yeah, nothing really gets done. So we have here, I guess, the way people describe it is that Johnny then tells the other boys he didn't, something felt wrong about this, and then later on, one of the neighbors in the community says that he was delivering paper and he could remember and hear the wagon that Johnny was pulling, and by this point it's 5:45 a.m. And so again, the vehicle is still continuing to be described as a Ford Fairmont. The man appears and he drives fast as soon as people start, the other paper boys see that, he's having a conversation. 2 other paper boys that were walking together see Johnny on the opposite side of the street walking the opposite direction, right? Mm-hmm. And as they say hi to Johnny, they continue to walk. So by this point, Johnny's walking to the corner of the street on the side he's on, right? And so a neighbor, and this is the eyewitnesses that you were talking about, hears some doors closing. He peeks out, sees that there is a car, again, of the Ford Fairmont, and he describes it as silver and black. He believes it's silver and black. And then speeds off, passes the stop sign, does a rolling stop, and continues driving off fast, right? And is it at this point that the 2 paper boys that had passed Johnny on the opposite side of the street go back to where Johnny was? They reverse back and to see that Johnny's wagon is now sitting in front of this lawn of the house on the corner and is just sitting there with no Johnny in sight. Now we have another neighbor saying that a man at this point, when he sees the 2 other paper boys passing Johnny on the opposite side of the street, there's a man coming out between 2 houses, right, out of the bushes, and crosses the street and follows Johnny, right? Yeah. And it's at this point that one can then say, because of what we know, what later on happens, you can say that it is the second assailant, right?
Sure.
Following Johnny on foot. while the other person's in the vehicle waiting for, to Johnny be abducted, right? And so you can then say that this is Paul, what's his name? That the eyewitnesses that came later.
Bonassi.
Mm-hmm. You could then say that maybe this is the person that they see nab Johnny with chloroform, you believe, and then throw him in the vehicle and then speeding off.
This is the guy who also said he was a victim, right?
This is the same guy who said
kind of forced to help.
Yes, he was forced, and he then later says he wasn't sold because they used him as a tool for these kidnappings of these other kids.
No, he was already broken.
Well, he was damaged goods, but by
they
this,
used him as a tool.
Yes, but by this point, he is so broken and brainwashed that they use him as a
like a mercenary. They
use him to throw him out there because he's at that age of how these kids' age are. That 12 to 15, to go out there and help. You know what I mean? And so, you have this occurrence. And so then what ends up happening is, they report Johnny as missing. They alert the parents or whatever. And here's where things start to dive into the conspiracy theories, right? Because you have here, it takes the police 45 minutes to arrive to the house.
And they're 10 minutes away.
Yes. How far?
10 minutes away.
They're about 10 minutes away.
They take 45 minutes
to get there.
They're basically walking to
So they had their coffee and their donuts and everything.
Donuts, these fat fucks. And then
it's the first shift, man. Come on.
Who gives a shit,
really
right?
slow.
You gotta move pretty quick. If you're police, you gotta move quick.
Why would you think in a prominent community that they are moving that slow? Just like off the bat, let's just like trying to.
Well, if you dive into the conspiracy theory that they believe that the cops
are involved,
or not necessarily all the cops, but maybe there's one or two bad apples. I mean, you think about it this way, and I like how one of the guys puts it in the documentary is, you believe in the police and you trust the police. You believe in the FBI and you trust the FBI because they're there to protect. And it's the same thing with the church, right? You think about it, they're there to guide the community into moral aspects.
They don't want to let that out because then it ruins everybody's
reputation. Yeah, exactly. But you can't say every priest is a bad priest. Mm-hmm. You have a couple of bad apples there.
I think
they're just generalizing.
You can't just really generalize. You may have one or two bad, cops in the precinct.
Also, what's the size of the police force? Because the town was like 22,000 at that time.
And there was like 30 or 40
so
people.
Maybe there wasn't that many cops present.
Fun fact though, West Des Moines, Iowa, was ranked 18th on the hipster cities in 2015.
Weird.
What the fuck?
It's very random.
Hipster cities.
Hipster cities.
I'm assuming it's like one of the hipster cities in the country.
Where like you roll up your pants and you wear bow ties and all that.
And you make your own craft beer.
Yes, you do one of those things.
I only like the craft beer.
You have a beard and you tend to wax it.
Oh, well, hey.
I mean, some people like to look good,
No one's calling you out, man.
No, he doesn't have that.
If anything, you're the most hipster of all of us.
Yeah, it's a tight pants, though.
It's not, no. It's not just a type. You, on the other hand, tend to. I mean, come on, look at this place.
I like it.
This is hipster central. There was an area. I mean, you tend to know all the little locations that I fucking never heard of.
Well, why not?
I'm sorry, I'm more cultured than you are.
Well, there you go. That's what a hipster would say. I'm more cultured than you are. That's
we're not the hipster area, right? We're old, man.
Technically, one can say, you are.
We're on the west side of town.
He's on the west side of town. But I mean, you have a nice coffee bar not that far.
That's true.
There you go, see?
No, man.
And he knew about it, and then he then tells me, hey,
it's down
how would you know?
And then he gets upset about it that I haven't gone.
Why haven't you gone?
Yeah. See, there you go. I have been. It's okay.
We actually went this morning.
We've got a special guest in the house.
Why would you not know about a coffee bar in your neighborhood, though?
True, but he would emphasize so much. Anyways, let's go back to the case. This is not even important. I'm not the edit. I'll share that.
I feel like you're attacking me right now.
That's normal conversation.
It's all right. We'll continue with this later.
It's a sore subject, apparently.
I just don't care about coffee. Anyways.
I'm sorry, Whiteo.
You don't care about coffee?
Yes, I do care about coffee, but I'm just care about the program in which we're trying to fucking continue doing. Anyways, it takes them this long, but you have 5 eyewitnesses that say, "Hey, look, this is occurring. You know, this is what happened. We don't believe that he was a runaway." Right? Well, he has no history of trying to run away.
Well, that's what I was saying to Hoffman. Is that was the narrative that they were
emphasizing?
No,
that
your
the police
boy's running away.
Completely emphasizing.
Yeah, that was pissing me off. I'm like, how dare you just say that's almost like neglecting the fact that something more serious.
Well, that's neglecting the eyewitnesses. They're the ones saying, "Hey, look, there's something off about this situation. You know, you really have to look into what's happening."
Then all of a sudden you're saying, "Oh, he runs away. He doesn't have a history of being a runaway child."
Like, why throw that out there?
He's working, yeah.
He's working. Like, he doesn't run away. He comes back.
Like, why we just abandon his job?
So why would you keep saying that bullshit? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
lazy cops.
Well, I mean, one could say that they're lazy, and then
lazy
you
cops.
go
or crooked. I would say crooked.
Yeah, because then you look into what happened. The chief, as we know, ends up resigning.
Yeah.
Right? Because whether he couldn't handle the media coming at him or, you know, even the mom, right? Because then we get into the mom consistently being there at the police station trying to push these guys to search for her son.
Do more.
And with every right, she has that, hey, go out there and go look for my son.
What are you doing here while you're going and somebody's, my boy's kidnapped?
Well, I mean, then we get into the thing where people were saying, well, you know, there weren't cops really out there with the search parties.
No.
They were still going out there stopping people for speeding. You know, there were still... They weren't
no
really...
urgency.
There was no sense of urgency. You have no police really out there with these volunteers because most of the search party consisted on volunteers. Yeah. Other parents who were concerned of the situation. And none of these fucking people are going out there. And then you look into the chief and when Lorraine goes out there and says, "Hey, have you contacted the FBI?" No, they hadn't contacted the FBI because what does he say? He doesn't believe that a crime occurred. Are you fucking kidding me? You think that a crime hasn't occurred?
And the boy's missing. He hasn't come back.
We have no proof that he ran away. You're supposed to consider this a fucking crime.
Yeah, there's no proof that he ran away. So, but that's what they're saying, right? That's what the cops are saying. Oh, we know he ran away. You're like almost like embedding her Johnny Boy's mom. And like, no, your boy's a runaway. Like talking shit back, almost like blaming her.
And this is where and why the conspiracy goes back even further and even deeper with the police. You then have a story that later on, years past, that develops that someone who, again, 2 days prior to this occurring, I don't remember if this was at a baseball game or a football game. I think it was one of the parents tells Johnny, "Hey, go get us snacks or whatever," and he goes to the concession stand to get food. And so he goes, and he's taking long.
Oh yeah. So
the dad goes, right, to go see why Johnny's taking so long. So he goes and sees that there's a police officer talking to Johnny.
What?
Then whatever happens, Johnny goes back. Moments later, Johnny asks he wanted to go further, closer to the fence to watch the game. I think it's a baseball game then. So this happens. They tell Johnny, "Well, stay where we can see you." Mm-hmm. Johnny says, "Okay." He goes. And so the story goes is that they're keeping an eye on Johnny. Johnny disappears. They no longer see Johnny. He's no longer in sight. So the dad goes and tries to find Johnny. So when the dad goes to find Johnny, he's not where he's supposed to be. So where is he? He walks around, finds Johnny somewhere underneath where the bleachers are, talking to the same cop.
Dang.
Now, I don't know if the story is true.
Well,
it's very odd and very creepy if you think about it, right? If you go into where the whole...
Why is a cop talking to a boy anyways?
Yes.
Like, what crime has he committed that you
need to talk to this kid? He's not fucking lost. So what? If you go into the story, then you're like, okay, there's something happening, right, with the police.
They were prepared to... Maybe it was the same police officers that
maybe it's this dirty cop, and he's working in with this network that we later hear about. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, give us some spit on Johnny Boy. Like, where is he?
We'll take him. Here's your cut.
What's going on?
So one of the reasons that they most likely didn't get too involved with looking for missing children is they just didn't have funding. So it wasn't until 1984 with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children where the U.S. actually created a bill to fund things like that.
Well, yeah,
but
so
it was out
for
of
the
this.
missing and exploited children. But that only came about
After
these cases.
Yeah,
and there's several cases that happen, as we all now know, right? So we then later find out that obviously there was other kids that went missing around this area, right? So we then hear later about another case, or actually we hear about like 2 cases that then later becomes quite interesting in the form that these kids that were taken fit similar, not just a scenario, but description of these kids, right? So you have Mark McAllen, who then disappears in 1982, September 15th. In 1984, you have Eugene Martin, who disappeared on August 12th. I believe Eugene Martin was also a paperboy. Mark, I believe his last name is McAllen, who disappears. Who I believe he also went to I believe he's also a paperboy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was.
He also disappears. So now you have, like, when you look at these pictures of these kids, they all look alike, and the similarities of hair, age, looks in general, they have the similar look.
They're pretty boys, man.
So you have this. Okay, so if you go into the pedophilia mindset, there's obviously a request for these boys to look a certain way, right? If you look into that weird mindset, you then look into the guy who goes into the case about the pedophilia. He talks about how all these people, there's magazines, there's pamphlets, there's video. But you look at the pamphlet thing and you read what some of these men are requesting. They request real specific stuff, right? I mean, they request certain type of like looks, and there's like a certain request to meet these.
I don't want to say this, but like what I found out in the documentary, that they're looking for virgins.
Yes,
they're looking for fresh meat, and they're for real.
Because when you go into the human trafficking thing, you're looking at cell, right?
Yeah.
So this kid has not been touched, so therefore he's valuable X. Yes, and so so that's it goes into that, and so you go when you look at Paul Benossi, whatever his fucking name was, as you later consider, he's also an accomplice who then serves time, right? And he's also unfortunately a victim himself. Who becomes like brainwashed to be used as a tool for these people, and you go into his situation, and you see that he's also been this individual that unfortunately, he was a victim himself.
Do you know what he was charged with? Who? Paul Benassi.
Was it perjury? No.
No, that was later.
That was later.
He well, he said
sexual assault of a child.
1989.
Oh.
But this was after. This was 7 years afterwards.
Right.
I think by then, exactly.
And that's actually when he came out.
Yeah.
And said, I also participated in the kidnapping.
By then, 7 years. Yeah, we can blame him for doing that, but like in his head, that's what he's been doing for 7 years? Like,
yes,
probably every day. Very
consistently.
Yeah, and so in his head, like he has to do it. He's got some compulsion.
He's being told to do this.
Like, this is good. This is what you want to do, and they brainwashed him, and so now he does it on his own. He doesn't need to be directed.
Yeah.
And then he got out, and then that's when he outed the what's the banker dude?
Larry Lawrence King. The town over.
So then what happens to Paul?
Well, he gets indicted and he goes in for whatever amount of time, and then he starts to come clean about what he thinks really happened, and so it's not really my fault. He was saying that I've been introduced in a pedophile ring where I was forced to do these activities.
Yes,
I didn't really want to do it.
He's been conditioned to do it.
He's been conditioned,
right? And so then you have Noreen meeting him,
Yeah, she
Right.
goes to
She goes to meet him.
Yeah, at the jail.
Yeah,
And
she doesn't. It's one of the things in the documentary where she talks about she doesn't know whether to strangle this guy or to feel bad for him because he's also a victim. Right?
She feels sympathy because she feels like her son's going through the same thing
that he's gone through.
Yeah, and so she like after a while like she let her guard down and like just tell me what happened to my boy, and then like Hoppin was saying, you were saying that he tells the story of the day he got kidnapped.
And what's more chilling is when he starts to reveal details about how he got kidnapped, how like where they nabbed him, how it was, the corner of the street, him nabbing him, throwing him in the car, the kind of car it was. And people were like, well, yeah, this wasn't the story. This is in the newspaper. Yeah, you knew that.
Yeah. Oh, so they were saying...
Give me something that you don't.
Yes. Okay, so we dive into that.
They started to go with the birthmarks.
The birthmarks, the scars. And so then, this is stuff that wasn't on the papers. This is stuff that she didn't publicize. So she talks about the birthmark that looked like a country.
Yeah.
South
America. I'm like, okay.
Well, he doesn't know, right? I mean, he's a kid that was kidnapped. He's not going to be very extremely educated on what country it is. But anyways, he talks about the scar on his tongue. You know, your boy had a scar on his tongue.
He fell down from a tree, bit his tongue.
And bit his tongue. He talks about another scar on his leg, on his ankle.
Yeah, he got burned from a motorcycle. Right? Yes. But not another. He stammers when he gets angry, and that's not something that was released publicly, I think.
Right.
And so that's a weird... detail, but that's an important detail. So you can almost
because it wasn't circulated anywhere. Nobody knew about these.
You can only have known if you were actually with John.
Yeah. Right. So then, what else do we find out about this? Like after all this information gets put out there, like
the branding.
Well,
it gives credence to his story because other people.
That comes out a little bit later. What I'm referring to is even after him telling his story of what happened that day with Johnny, neither do the police investigate him further or question him. Neither do the FBI come to question him. Okay, what's
current? What happened?
Have a lead. You have a lead here. You have somebody who. Lead. And what did the police say? What did the police say?
He's got multiple personality disorders. He doesn't really know what he's talking about. He switches his story.
We still don't have a case.
But according to Nareen, like his story's been consistent, and he knows details that are not known publicly.
And his story has never changed.
It never changed.
So then, what happens even further later on? A documentary, a film crew from, I believe this is the film crew from Britain, right?
Oh,
that was then brought by the Discovery Channel. To further investigate, to do a documentary. He then discusses about the network and then that branding. That's when you get that branding.
So tell me about the branding. What did they?
Oh, they were branding all the children with like an X and then a swoop underneath it.
Yeah.
But
like
other
like a little crest,
like cattle, they're cattle.
Lunar crest.
Yeah, but the thing that it pretty much gave credence to him because other kids that had been abducted were coming out and
the same
were pretty much proving his story. So I mean,
people were coming out with that branding. Who the fuck's gonna brand themselves with that?
Fuck, not any.
No, these obviously are victims here.
If you get the same branding, obviously it's something. It's from a source. It's one source. It's not like it's a coincidental situation where you got multiple.
And the branding wasn't like different. On all these cases, same consistent type of branding. So obviously it's the same tool being used. You have here Paul talking about this. He then takes, and during the filming, he talks about
what appears. You're talking about the house,
Colorado, right? Is it the Colorado house?
Colorado or Utah?
But he talks about. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. So when he talks about that guy.
Emilio.
Is it Emilio?
It is Emilio.
So when he talks about the bank thing, which is was it Omaha?
Larry King. It's a town over from
West Des Moines, right?
Yeah.
So he says that where the network is occurring, that's one of their main areas right? This is coming from. But he then talks about, there's this house in Colorado.
Yo, that house kind of...
Tell me about the house in Colorado.
Well, you want to talk about it?
What, the one that was
the house?
Abandoned, that the owner was a truck driver and also went missing?
Was he a truck driver or he was also a former...
Yeah, he, like police.
Or police at a jailhouse or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was he was like
Not
a state
warden,
employee.
but yeah.
And they don't know where he's at. They don't know he's missing. He's gone.
The house is just abandoned.
It's just abandoned. And so...
But what else is creepy about that house?
Well, that's what... So...
the crawl space.
The Paul guy, the crawl space. Like, he opened up... By him just being at the house, you can tell, like, his demeanor changed. He started to break down. He's starting to remember...
He becomes shut. Like, he immediately becomes shut.
He's
like,
petrified. He's just like, he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, he has... Well, I mean, if you watch the documentary, he has to, like, pretty much... He turns around, starts...
Crying, dude.
Crying.
Like, breaking down.
He starts breaking down. And he starts, like, almost like, I can't handle this right now.
Yeah.
Like, he's completely... He turns away from going in further. They later convince him to go in there. But what did they find, Hoffman? What did they find?
The carved initials of children.
Yes.
In
this, like...
In a crawl space.
Basement, like...
It wasn't even a basement.
Well, it's not a basement. Yeah,
it's dirt.
It's something that it was obviously created for that very purposes to hide these kids.
When somebody was visiting the house or they were going to investigate, put the kids in here, put the kids in here.
But it's not like there's not enough space. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because they had to drive... like
far.
Yeah, and then there's like no one around.
It looks like it's a random house. Just
it's not connected to any land. It's just
there's a road, but I mean,
it's nothing.
It's like off the road.
Why the fuck would you have a house there? It's like
very
desert.
suspicious.
Oh no! I mean, you people just, that are like homesteading, they want to be out where there's no one else.
It's not a homestead, homie. You know what I'm saying?
That's not what it's for.
It's for something else is occurring. But finding the initials of all these carved
of the
kids.
You think they did that themselves, or?
I wonder if they like cross-reference that to like missing children.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Like the initials.
Yeah, to
see if any within the time frame were there any other kids who fit with these initials to see like maybe.
Why would you have a crawl space like that in the first place? It's not like you have like feed or anything you're storing, right? It's just a weird space to have in your house, and then you have carved initials of people.
It also looked like a maze almost. Like there was like rooms or something. It looked really not intricate, but it looked really weird.
Like the way it was done. Like you get lost. Like they don't want it to be obvious.
There's no clocks.
There's no clocks.
There's no windows.
No clocks.
You're pumping oxygen, so you stay awake.
That's kind of fucked up.
That's what happens.
But I mean, that's kind of how it looked. I mean, it's kind of hard to when he tells this story, like to the journalist who's hearing him. He's also like, "Well, this is really out there. This is really crazy." But when they start having these people with the branding, when they go to the house, when they go through the cross space, when they look into the things, when they look into the carvings, the initials of these kids, that this is no longer just a small story that becomes even more real.
You're starting to find like not just evidence, but like a trail.
Yes.
Right? You got a Larry King, right? Supposedly he's involved. You have the house. You have the police that they're not saying anything. The FBI's not involved. You have these composite sketches of Emilio and some other fools, right, trying to discover these children. And so there's things now. It's not just there's detail now in the case for you to say that it's just somebody's just not a missing person. I think they uncovered something that they thought wasn't ever going to be uncovered. Yeah. It's not just somebody missing. Now you're finding a person that's missing, but then also a pedophile ring, dude. A major one. Yeah. With high up people with a lot of money.
So when you think about the case that he's involved with the bank, with the staff being behind, or this person being behind these kidnappings, these human trafficking of these children, you think about what some of the other people investigating this, you think about what Lorraine says. Now, if you're a pedophile, right, if you're in the child trafficking world. And if you have money, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do?
You don't do it yourself.
You don't do it yourself, exactly.
We were talking about that.
The poor person does it himself.
Well, that's what we were talking about. The poor pedophile has no means to...
He has to go out there and risk it. You know what I mean? He has to go risk grabbing a child, being seen in the daylight. This is happening.
And that's why most of the time they get caught. But the people who are high up there, politically involved with a lot of money, they're not going to get caught because they're, like I was telling Hoffman, there's a middleman. That middleman is the person contracted by the person with the money.
They're just putting distance between themselves.
Yes.
And nobody believes it either. If they're like a high-ranking
person.
person.
I don't know this guy. This guy's crazy. He's a pedophile. I'm
not even involved. I have money. Why would I be involved? I have money.
I got a wife and I got kids, and that's like
just crazy talk.
That's just
now the other person looks like
they're crazy.
What's that?
It just looks like they're crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And either the person who's been hired is either forced or they need the money.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're fucked either way. It's like a double-edged sword. Like,
definitely.
Like they need money, so they do it, or they're forced, or they're blackmailed. Right? We're gonna come out with saying that you're this and that if you don't do our work. Right?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
That's possible. So where do we go from here?
You had something? No?
I have something, but it's more on like where would he be now? Did anybody come across anything like that?
Okay. Yeah.
If he's still alive.
Well, before we jump in that.
That's why I didn't want to go there.
Well, how about the visitation?
Visitation, yes. Can someone who knows a little bit more about that?
Well, just
she was in court.
Huh?
She was in court under oath, and they asked her if she had gotten in contact with Johnny.
And what did she say?
And she, I don't know if the story is true because it's a little outlandish.
It is, but
that Johnny and another boy showed up at her door one night knocking, and she opened the door and she had a conversation with him. And she's saying this on the stand in front of a jury.
Right now he's like 27 at least.
Yeah, I think it was 15 years after. So
yeah.
She was 12 years old when he went missing. So it's either, it could be one of two things. Either it was Johnny or it was someone playing a joke on her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because, what do you mean?
Okay, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because why would she lie about that? I mean, that just
why would she lie?
Oh, look, why would she keep that? Wait till she's on the stand to say anything about it.
Maybe she was avoiding something.
But
maybe she was afraid.
So yes, exactly.
Maybe
so
she knew something that we didn't really know initially.
Yes, but what did she say in the documentary about why she didn't say it? She says it why.
I was telling him because supposedly that our conversation, Johnny was saying that he was afraid for his life. He escaped, and this is my only chance to talk to you. And so the reason, and he's living under an assumed identity, right? So he's not Johnny in the outside world.
Yeah.
He's somebody else, like I don't know, Mike, whatever.
Right.
And he's saying for me, the reason I'm not going to come out is because I'm still, I'm afraid for my life.
Right.
And so I don't want to sacrifice my own life for coming out. I know too much. They know too much about me. That's supposedly why.
Risk.
That's her explanation.
Yeah, I mean,
she might be in danger as well.
It does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to put your mom in danger.
So I mean, at that point, assuming it was him, would you think that he was still in like captivity, or that at that point he's escaped and he's just like,
well,
I'm just gonna come see you this one time, and then after that I gotta go into hiding because
I'm never gonna see you again.
I would say he escaped. Why would they let him go?
He's 27. I mean, he's no longer like a pedophile target. You know what I mean?
Yes.
What if he talks, right? So what's the risk of him talking?
Or maybe he's done things too, like to other kids at this point, become involved.
But they have dirt on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's
also that. Good point. But we're forgetting this. He's branded. If there's a network and they see that he's branded with this, he's a victim.
Well,
the victim who might know something too much.
So I'm saying, like, they would have just let him go and, you have an hour to go visit your mom. I don't think that happened.
No.
If it was true, then he escaped.
Yeah, he
probably
escaped.
was
and I know the man that was with him in 97.
At 2-something in the morning.
According to the documentary, according to Naireen, or whatever her name is, that he had to ask for permission to speak, which was kind
or he kept looking over, like, make sure it's okay to say this. Like, that's...
So maybe it was like a guardian, like, hey, don't say too much.
Like, we got to stick to our story and not say too much, and just, like...
We have, like I was saying, a code of silence even between the victims.
The victims
so
themselves.
all the brands are on the shoulder.
Oh, really?
from the pictures. Did you guys see any of this?
Yeah,
No.
toss 'em
It's
around,
like a weird looking. What is it?
It's
like
an
an X, and then like a crescent, like a crest, like a lunar crest.
Yeah.
Like, but on its curvature.
Yes.
So Paul Benassi, I think, is the one that brought these photos out,
Right.
and he says that in one of them, Johnny's in it.
Oh yes, we go to the picture of where allegedly Johnny's in it. But here, so there's a lot, so when they take out these pictures, there's several single ones. When I mean single ones, I mean where there's one person in these pictures, and that person remains to be identified. There's another picture where there's 3 kids.
Yeah, dude.
And there's a police officer who says, "Oh, I remember this case. Those 3 kids have been identified, but we don't know who's this other kid."
Yeah, they
And
have
there's
one
other
kid that they
pictures.
couldn't identify.
Yes.
It's yet to be released.
Yeah.
What's that, dude?
That's what it says. This person's identified being from Washington. This one is Johnny, and then this one is from Seattle, yet to be released. So they haven't told the family. What the fuck?
And so the police knew, man. They know that something's going on. Like, they have images of these kids tied up in a bed.
Yeah, something.
Gag.
Obviously, something's happening, and so there's a lot of like people being taken, unfortunately by this point, and it kind of pushes this movement where we start having kids on milk cartons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny, he's one of them. He is. I'm trying to find exactly because Pandora, you were showing me
The other boy.
no, well, not just another boy.
There's
There's also a girl.
But yeah, he was actually they say he's the first one, but he's actually like the third.
So, okay, so this is what it is. 1984, Gosch was photographed and appeared alongside that of Juanita Rafaela Estevez on the milk cartons across America. They were the second and third abducted children to have their plights publicized in that way. The first one was Ethan Patz. Is that how you say that? Ethan?
Mm-hmm.
Eaton, yeah.
Eaton
There's no
Patz?
H.
Yeah, there's no H. Eaton Patz. He was actually the first one to be on the milk carton. But I mean, it pushed this.
But it's like still the first 3 kids. He's
Yes,
one of them.
And he's one of them. And so people always wondered why a milk carton. Well, everyone consumes milk, right?
They occasionally look at the milk carton too, so they'll be like, "Man, who's this face?" And then
Who's this
somebody,
kind of shit?
millions of people are gonna see the same face. Somebody's gonna see.
Someone's gonna know. Someone's gonna see, and it helps, and it's really informative in that manner.
It's 1984. I mean, there's not
social
that
media.
much. Yeah, there's no social media really.
You gotta,
there's no Amber Alert.
There's some TV, there's newspapers, and there's still a lot of like printed media.
Yeah, exactly.
Not like nowadays.
Magazines, but like, I mean, that's all they had. It wasn't speedy.
Right. It really wasn't. I mean, it was a slow process.
There's no email.
You have here
no text messages.
Yeah, exactly. There's no text
Nothing.
messages.
No cell phone, so you can't call it. Like, you have a house phone.
I mean, cell phone was kind of like.
What's that?
It was a landline, or you had a
Payphone.
Payphone, or if you could afford it, car phone.
Car phone. Yes. Car phone.
I bet those were
It's real fancy stuff. Real expensive. From what I heard.
I seen those before. I'm like, God damn. When I first saw them, I'm like, that's pretty fancy, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I saw them in movies.
Phone.
I saw it in movies, and I was like,
how did that work?
Cool, man.
Was it like a cell phone?
It was like a cell phone. Yeah. It worked with the antenna of the radio. Is that what it?
No, I think its own antenna.
Its own antenna.
Oh, big ass one, like foot long.
It's
like, yo, you
got
got
A foot long phone with a foot long antenna. It's all crazy.
What's the rise of the brick phone?
Yeah, that's what it was.
You had to carry like your own little bag with it when it first came out. It had
its own case.
It had its own case and like battery.
Not like a phone case, but like an actual like bag.
Yeah, it was actually it looked like one of those like mail messenger bags. That's what it looked like. And I was like, oh shit, that is crazy to have that. And then later, I mean, you still had it was still the brick phone. Then you see what you later then see in movies where it's like another big antenna type of thing. Or it's like a gray looking phone, which was the generic look back in the day. I mean,
Zach Morris.
Yeah, Zach Morris. With telephone ordering pizza or some shit. So you have that type of thing. And again, this is something that you go back to, and you had no social media now, like it is now. You know what I mean? We're just fast, and everybody can see. You have your Facebook. You have your Instagrams or Snapchats. You have your messengers. You have all kinds of things. You have different channels to communicate with people.
And back then you didn't, so and so the years go on, right? So that's sort of, Bonucci, whatever, Bonaducci, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
That weird Italian name.
And so you go back to Pandora, where you were saying,
where is he now?
Where is he now? Type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. I'm trying to figure out how to connect the dots on this, because there are people who think that he is somebody who was pretty public fairly recently, like in the George W. Bush administration era.
Really?
Yeah.
Who, Johnny Boy?
Mm-hmm. There is a guy he has two different names, so it's kind of weird because both names match the initials of Johnny, just JG. But this guy was known as James Dale Guckert, and also probably more known as Jeff Gannon now.
Jeff Gannon.
He was a conservative columnist.
Mm-hmm.
His pseudonym was Jeff Gannon, right? So the age kind of corresponds, and they've done picture comparisons of him. And I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because you've got a 12-year-old being compared to like a 60-year-old. But it's kind of crazy because he had this.
What do you think?
Maybe
there's one.
It's hard to.
You got that gap between his teeth.
Here's the thing. It's so hard to even pinpoint because there's people that look like other people.
Well, here's the thing: is this guy? It turned out that he was gay. He got outed, right?
Right.
No big deal there, but it turned out that he also used to be a gay escort when he was younger, and there was pictures that came out about him.
Gotta make that money.
There was a lot of weird connections with that. So the reason people think that it's him is because I guess when all that kind of surfaced, the mom, Noreen, pretty much kind of fell off the radar, stopped going so public with all the information that she, continued to search for him.
Right.
They actually reached out to him, and they had sent a guy representing the mother to his home, and they wanted to DNA test him.
Right.
And he had said that he would do it. The results should be kept private. They wanted her to make a statement saying that no, he was not her son, and that they don't think he ever did the DNA test.
Yeah, we went through with it.
But it's believed that he knows a lot about this ring that he was involved with. And that's why he will never come out and say anything.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it is kind of weird that, they're saying, probably the reason nobody's really looking for him is because they know where he is. They know who he is now.
Yeah.
Here's another picture. It's a little hard to see, but they show the 4 pictures of the guy, but he was known by 2 different names.
Yeah.
The picture from 1982 looks a little blurry.
Yeah, that one is.
So, you could fit in a lot in that.
Right. No, yeah.
I did find this article from 1990 about them actually finding his body.
Yeah, I saw something about that.
Interesting.
It says police in Yuma, Arizona said that Johnny apparently was killed in near the city in a drug-related shooting. The body ended up in Mexico.
Random.
But I mean, if you look at the map of or the city is
right
in Boise, Idaho, you have to drive a really long way to get to Mexico.
It's a really long drive.
Logistically, it's
not logical.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how much I give credence to this.
Well, it's still considered like a cold but open case.
Yes.
So I guess they didn't really
case.
think that was him.
Yeah. I mean, I could see.
Has anybody found out what the name of the newspaper was that he was delivering? I haven't yet to see the actual name of it.
I don't recall what the name of the other paper was.
So it's like the Register or something like that? The Des Moines Register?
Yeah, the name of the newspaper that he was delivering.
So I was like, what if that was a way to target kids? Because there was that other child that disappeared also doing paper route. I mean, in general, they would just be easy targets because they have kids out there, you know, before the sun rises, it's dark. Who the heck is up at that hour besides them, probably?
Yeah. Unescorted.
But I mean, what if they were being hired, like, as potential targets?
Like, here, hire, you know, these type of kids.
Go get your friends. Get your friends in this.
Yeah. I mean, who knows?
It's very dark, obviously.
And the fact that, like, I don't know, I feel like the community, the cops, just kind of gaslighted everybody that knew what they knew and saw what they saw. It's like, no, the kid's not missing. He's a runaway. Or, like, no, these 5 witnesses don't matter, you know? Like...
You also got to remember it's a whole lot easier to disappear in the 80s.
True. I mean, because we go back to there wasn't really a database to keep all this track. I mean, the kids that disappeared were runaways. And one of the things they mentioned during the documentary, whenever what's his name, Paul Benucci or Benassi, whatever his name was, when he was being interviewed, Benassi or something like that. When he was being interviewed, one of the things he said is like, not all of the kids that were there were kids that were kidnapped. Some of these kids were runaways. So it's perfect for them because they're runaways. They ran away. The parents know that they ran away, right? So no one's going to be looking for these kids. So they take these kids for the most part because they're young and they're troubled kids, and you know, depending on the type of family they came from, you know, some of these kids they're not going to have anybody as an adult looking for them.
Why wouldn't you look for a runaway kid though?
Could be a bad family.
I mean, if your family sucks that bad, I guess that's probably why they ran away.
Yeah, but there's going to be, you know, that there's families out there that if their kid runs away, they're not giving.
They're like, cool, one less kid to take care of.
Yes, exactly. One less mouth to feed.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
Don't become parents.
No, that's for you.
No, I mean, we thought that. I mean, obviously, that's something that occurs.
It could.
I mean, we know this.
I can't deny that because I don't know.
My family was nice to me.
I assume others weren't.
They're okay.
But I mean,
they fed me.
Obviously, there's this connection where these runaways, they get taken, and they're sold off. They're used as whatever objects for other people. You know what I mean? You know, which is unfortunate for these kids that they're in a shitty family who's not looking out for them. I mean, we know that there's families out there.
That could, yeah. They neglected the child.
They neglected the child.
But yeah,
foster kids, you know, they run away. Sometimes the foster parents don't even report it.
Orphans.
Because they want to continue to collect that check.
What do you think his motives were if he did actually want to run away, and then he happened to get caught up in this pedophile ring? Like, I mean, was it really that bad for him that he wanted? So
the way everyone pictures, the way people paint the picture of Johnny doesn't, to me, it just doesn't fit for him to be a runaway.
I don't think so either.
He seemed like a responsible kid. I mean, he was always delivering his newspapers on time.
He bought himself a motorcycle with that money.
Like, who the heck had a job at 12? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
His parents didn't buy it, but he was trying to encourage him. Like, you want your motorcycle? Then make some money.
To me, the way the parents describe him and the way everybody else, as an adult-wise, the kid was a businessman. Mm-hmm. He was a hustler. He was out there trying to get what he could.
Maybe he was enticed with something.
Wait.
Well, possible.
Question: What if he was
motorcycle?
What if he was gay? He's growing up in a conservative community. That would give him a reason to run away.
Yeah.
And then, like, the mom making up the idea that he was picked up by a pedophile ring,
right?
Sort of like fits into that. You know what I mean?
Like so he disappeared forever.
Like, well, he's gay. The mom's in denial about it.
The kid actually runs away,
and now she's trying to blame someone else for her shortcomings for not being a parent.
And him running away because he's gay. You know what I mean? Instead of saying that he's gay and he's a runaway, she goes with the other story,
But that's
saying
extreme.
that
I would think that's. Well, I could believe that.
It's his face from embarrassment. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
back then,
or like
coming
my
again
kid's
from
not
the
gay.
city,
He was turned gay.
was
You know what I
turned-
mean?
yeah,
Like
this
somebody
happened
got to him.
Yeah, he was taken, and this
It's
occurred.
not his fault.
Yeah, exactly. It's not his fault. He's being taken to do this whatever. You know what I mean?
Because they don't talk about anything that happened prior to that, right? They just say, "Oh, he was a great kid,"
Yeah.
but they never go into details. Hey, was there turbulence in the family?
How was him with his other siblings? They kind of don't really go into that either in the documentary about
Yeah.
his other siblings. 'Cause he has 2 other siblings. He has a sister and a brother, and they don't really talk about that relationship as well. Another thing that we didn't get to talk about is like, so in 1985 there was a bill surfaced. I don't know if you guys recall this. There was a bill surfaced with a handwritten note, supposedly by Johnny Gosch, about "I'm still alive," written on the bill.
Oh, the $1 bill.
Yeah, $1 bill, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? You think that was real? You think that was something that, or something maybe that the parent cooked up to have the case continue?
Or like, what are the chances of? I mean, I've heard stories about dollar bills, like a guy writing down, "The person that brings this back to me, I will marry," and like 5 years later, that bill comes back to him, or his girlfriend has it in her wallet.
That's a weird story.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but I mean, the chances of a dollar bill going out in circulation
Right.
and then going
And
to
then-
that one specific person, it's pretty out there.
Yeah, it's very out there.
Well, who got the dollar bill?
This lady from some other,
Was it in another state?
in another city, right?
Yeah, it didn't go very far.
Because it didn't go that far. Because what ends up happening is the father says, "Hey, send me that dollar bill, and I'll send you one back to replace your dollar." And so
You're like, just keep it. It's $1.
it's $1, but whatever, you know, money. So he gets that dollar back, and so they say that that's his kid's signature, that's his handwriting. That's their claim to it.
I mean, if you were kidnapped and you didn't have many opportunities to tell people where you are,
right. You would do
what if
whatever-
like they sent him to the gas station to buy something and he's just
And
like, here's my chance. I can
right
put a
now.
clue out there.
Yeah.
Because you hear about that even nowadays. Like I just read something recently where this woman, like I don't know if it was her husband or boyfriend who was like abusing her and was pretty much threatening to kill her.
Right.
They had a dog and she convinces him that the dog is sick and needs to go to the vet.
Oh.
And then so she because she needed to get out of the house, right? Like to have access to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So at the vet's, she writes down somewhere that, you know, this guy has a gun and that to please call the cops. Well, they did, and
Right.
he did have a gun, and I mean, it turned out that she was trying to escape this like crazy situation. I had also heard something like that where another woman and her kid were kind of being held the same way. She used an app to order pizza.
Oh.
And she
yes.
puts a note in the pizza order
The pizza order, yes.
for like help as well. So I mean, you never know. People use whatever they can.
to get out of the situation.
I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, it could also easily be faked, but
Right.
you know, you got to think about what people may have had to use at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Not a whole lot. You know, you didn't have a pizza app, so
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, you can't just order like Papa John's or something.
Yeah. Shout out to Papa John's. So yeah, I mean,
Sponsorship. I really like that pizza.
Papa John's.
I don't like Papa John's as a person though.
Oh no, he sucks.
No,
Actually, yeah, let's get somebody else. Cancel that sponsorship.
I like Pizza Hut.
I'm down for
Pizza
pizza.
Hut. Pizza's good, right?
I like pizza.
Now I'm hungry for pizza.
I
Where go,
know.
guys?
There's just a slice right behind you.
I know.
It's not gonna sustain me, and I won't even get hungry. You know, so
No,
just
That's just
eat
gonna
it
make him
more.
hangry. Like,
Just eat it, dude. Yeah, it's good.
Trust me.
Did you want some?
no, I'm good.
Just eat the slide, Papa.
You can give me a whole pizza later. No, I'm good.
I'm getting her a whole pizza later in front
Oh,
of me.
what kind of pizza?
I don't know.
I'm really hungry now.
Oh my god.
Taking a pizza break. Why all?
Well, what do we say about this?
This is really good.
That's
Is that sriracha on it?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh no, I don't want. I don't
I
like
love
sriracha.
Just try it.
You know sriracha?
No.
Oh my god, where are you from? It's the best thing ever.
I mean, I've tasted it. I just don't
Yeah.
care for it.
Dude, I put it on my
No.
salad too.
It's
man.
hipster. It's hipster.
No,
Ketchup.
that's not hipster. I'm not no hipster.
You guys are all hipsters. Takes one to know one.
We're all in denial.
Yeah.
I didn't deny it. I'm just saying, you are one too.
Denial's not
I'm
just
not
a river in
denying it.
Egypt.
I'm really cool.
Anyways, pizza break was taken, not from Papa John's.
No sponsorship here.
No
No.
sponsorship. Yet.
Yeah, what?
Yet.
Is that was it?
I don't want to support his causes.
Pizza Hut. No, I'm saying Pizza Hut, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
We do
Yeah,
Little
whatever.
Caesars.
Little Caesars
Little
is
Caesars
good.
is good too.
Dude,
Pizza
the-
Patron.
Pizza Patron. I think I had it once.
Gotta edit that one out. That's so cool.
That's not local.
Isn't it?
No.
We've heard of it all the way here in Alaska.
Yeah, in the bunker.
In the bunker.
Yeah,
We're underground, people.
We're trying to get it up here, okay?
yeah.
You know how hard it
Get
is
straight.
to fly it up here?
Maybe a helicopter can deliver some over here, just like they did
Helicopter.
Taco Bell.
You know, one of
You
those
get it from Amazon.
airplanes.
Amazon delivers.
Taco Bell, yeah.
Nobody wants
Oh,
Taco Bell,
Taco
though. No. Please don't let sponsor us.
No. Where was I?
Oh, that's it.
We're trying to wrap it up. What do
Let's try
we
to wrap it
think?
up. So what do you
think?
guys think? What are your thoughts? What are your theories? What is something we didn't touch? Go
So
ahead.
say I don't go with the gay story, right? Like he. No. No, what Pandora was saying. Or,
What if he was
how
gay?
Hawkman-
What-
yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that scenario, right?
Right.
I didn't think about it like that, but it could be true. I think.
Yeah.
But I think there's more that outweighs maybe that scenario in my head, in my opinion, that maybe there's pedophiles everywhere, man. There's organized crime that involves pedophilia, and how like the other paperboy was taken 2 years later. I think, without knowing all the facts, but knowing that Bonucci guy, and I think somebody did take him, abducted him, and now he's living another life, right? Another identity. He did, and he's worried about his safety, so he can't come out. He probably never comes out.
Right.
So I think that's what it is. I think somebody took him and they brainwashed him. They made him do heinous acts of whatever you
Right.
can think of, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's a nightmare to somebody.
To have that done to your
Child,
kid,
12
and,
years old.
or even to be in that situation. I mean, think about it. You're being forced to do something you don't want to do.
You know, that's what I think, and I think more the evidence to me leads to the fact that somebody prepared to take him.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a
It was
random
planned.
act. Oh, let's take this guy. No, they were looking for him. They found out what he was doing. He wakes up at 5 to deliver the paper. Not many people.
They
are
watched him for a while.
It's a
He was
sleepy
alone.
town, right? So there's not that many people. People are naive.
Right.
So maybe that's what I think. That's not maybe, but that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pandora?
I don't know. I mean, the whole him possibly have been gay, you know, as a kid. It's possible. I feel like we just don't know that much about his early
Right.
life. Like we don't know, other than he had a paper route. Like we don't know what was his relationship with his family, or like was there
Yeah.
any issues at school. Like there's literally nothing
Yeah.
that I've seen on
Not much of a personal
possible
life.
conflicts, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, I think if there was any kind of ring at that time trying to traffic children, he was an easy target
Right.
Mm.
because of the nature of his job.
And the time frame. You know?
And I mean, I hate to go back to the dad, but like, what was his deal with that? He didn't go out with him that day too.
Just one day,
Like, why?
and all of a sudden it's taken. So I think that's weird to me.
yeah.
Like you're old enough, you can go.
Yeah.
Maybe
I mean,
not.
I'm not saying he's the suspect there, but like, I wonder what was going on that morning that he didn't take him.
And there was nothing said.
Because he usually,
He
it said
blew it
There
that,
was something said, but I just don't remember.
No,
what
he
it
just
was.
blew it off.
He just didn't want to go.
because the
Right.
kid usually would take the dad. They made it sound more like the
he go
kid
with
would
the
take the
dog?
dad, not the dad would take him.
Was the dog there?
The dog was there. The dog
He
was
was left behind.
left.
Dotson.
With-
The Dotson was left behind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm like, maybe there was like maybe a small conflict, and he was like, you know what? I don't want my dad with me this morning. I'm just gonna take the dog.
Yeah.
So maybe he's not trying to run away, but the fact that maybe there was some issue at home,
Yeah.
maybe he goes out on his own, and then at that point he's more of an easy target.
He should have just had a pit bull instead.
It's a sleepy town, man. They don't
I know.
need pit bulls,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, and I mean the way the whole cops
Yeah.
reaction,
that's
the
weird.
lack of FBI, like that
That's
pisses me
suspicious.
off.
That's
Yeah.
very suspicious. Very suspicious. I
Somebody-
mean, you can't be that fucking lazy. Like, really? You're that fucking lazy to do your fucking job? I don't know.
Oh.
Hoffman,
I like your attitude.
it's very hard.
for me, I'll put it this way. I think since the mom wasn't getting any explanation, she went out and looked for one, right? And then finding this Josh, was it Josh? The guy that was in prison. Bonucci. Finding him just exacerbated everything. Because he went missing. Usually when someone goes missing and they don't show up, he's obviously dead, right?
Yeah.
So finding this guy and linking him to a pedophile ring just made things. It just escalated everything.
It just everything.
So in trying to help out, she could have just made things worse for herself. So she could have been a little hysterical, and at that point the cops are just like, you know what, we're doing everything we can, and she's like, no, you're not doing anything.
But they weren't. That's the thing.
Yeah.
She went down to the police station. She wouldn't have bothered these guys at work.
She was adamant about
what the fuck are you guys doing? You're just sitting on your asses doing nothing. And they were. I mean, the community even said this. This is what's even more upsetting. You can't blame it on budgets. Because you're still in uniform, you're still getting paid.
Yeah.
You're not going out there. You're more concerned about people with traffic tickets, people speeding. That's your least of your fucking concerns is about fucking person speeding through town. You have other more important things on hand.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Someone goes missing, you just can't stop in doing everything else.
But here's the thing: what's more upsetting? It's not that we know that there's other things at hand that you have to do, but you're talking about a town who has low. What is it called?
Low population.
Yes, and crime rate.
That's
your most concern is going to be somebody speeding.
Missing children.
A missing child is
like
going to be
what's
on the top
keeping them busy.
of your list.
Yeah.
What is it so important? What case are you working on?
They could have got somebody from other police department like, hey, we need some manpower over here. They didn't do anything. They just stood down.
You could. I mean, this is far fetched, but was things that you could be looking at. Was there a car stolen? Was it a fair amount? Was it a Ford? Would it match this? You got to look into things. Did you ever run the plates?
They tried to hire somebody to investigate that vehicle, but they had no plate, so it got cold real quick.
So
they hired a hypnotist.
They hired.
He tried to remember something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. The parents obviously went to a full extent to find the kid.
I don't see much about the dad though.
I mean, we don't, but I mean, who?
Because what was his thoughts?
Dad could have shut down. I mean,
they divorced.
Possibly, they later did divorce.
Yeah,
that was their only.
That
kid,
was
right?
his son. Well, with them two, yeah.
But she had two other kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard when you hear about parents who have a kid go missing. Something happens. A tragedy happens. It's not. It's not something that's not far from what could possibly is them splitting. It's something that does occur. It's something that obviously both parents can't cope with. I mean, you lose a child. That's a hit. That's a large hit on you. You know what I mean? It takes a lot from you. So that obviously causes a ripple in their relationship. And there's no way escaping that. There really is.
Because I feel like that when we've seen stuff like that, the parents react in different ways.
Yeah,
right?
Like one shuts off, one's more.
One's like, no, they're dead. The other one's like, no, they're still out there. And it's just like.
One can't cope with the other one.
Keep fueling that fire. Yeah.
It's your fault because you didn't go with
him. Yes.
Yeah, and like that internal blame.
And he blames himself. Maybe I should have gone. Maybe I should just gotten up and just fucking go.
Maybe he was drunk, dude.
I mean, it's still like.
Be hungover on a Sunday.
Seems likely.
It's likely. I mean,
Saturday night got crazy.
Yeah. Just happens to me.
Bowling with the boys.
That's
right.
Poker, I don't know.
A little smoochy, man. Something happened.
Yeah, maybe you smoke pot. I don't know. Anything. Who knows?
Who knows? Like, my son, you go out, take the dog.
Yeah.
He'll protect you.
He keeps looking at my face, and it's just
a Chiweenie.
Should have got a German Shepherd or a Doberman, something big. I don't know. The way I see it, it's obviously a tragedy. Whenever a kid goes missing, and it's unfortunate for this situation arising, and that at the same time with all these other missing kids, and then pushing for all these changes to happen with the FBI, with local police, with legislation for the
Amber
missing
Alerts.
Amber Alerts now for the missing and exploited children. That type of thing, occurred out of that. The milk cartons and stuff, and that kind of helped also to push. It was very unfortunate. I think that it's all these possibilities. What Hoffman said, what you said, Pandora said. It's one of those things that's very plausible. All these scenarios, unfortunately, are very possible because we don't have enough information. There's not enough information on the dad. There's not information on the kid's personal life at school with other friends. With the siblings, we don't have any of that. So it's kind of hard to go. Was there a secret on this kid? Was there something else that he had to hide? What are the other? We have stories of the bleacher thing, the game.
That's right.
There's other things that we don't get to hear about. That maybe could help to this case.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's a very difficult case. Hopefully there's one day there'll be closure for the mom, for the father. But it's a really tough case, and hopefully our listeners have enjoyed listening to this case, and if you have your own opinions, your thoughts, something, a theory, that you may have, please hit us up on Facebook and on Twitter. We have our YouTube coming up soon. We're still working on it, and we're still working on our website, and so hopefully we'll have that up pretty soon for you guys.
That's gonna be awesome.
And again, if you like this episode, please share, retweet, repost. Tell us we're doing a good job. Tell us we're doing a bad job. Tell us where we can improve. Tell us there's another case. Whatever.
Tell us your voices.
Yeah. Tell us your voices. What are your thoughts? But hit us up, and we'll catch you on the next episode. We'll catch you on the next episode.
That's right.
Until next time.
All right.